New Year's Eve, 1981, a room in Amsterdam. 5 young men, ages 24, 25, 28, 29, and 31. They're broke. They're frustrated. They're nobody. The 24-year-old stands. He raises his glass. He says, "I would rather die. A shot at all or nothing to hatch a plan that will solve all of our problems in one go. Permanently. And I mean permanently." The room goes quiet. 4 men look at one friend who's promising to fix everything, forever. 2 years later, these 5 friends will execute the most lucrative kidnapping in European history. They'll take one of the richest men on the continent. They'll demand 35 million guilders. They'll get every single cent. And that victory, the thing they spent 2 years building, will destroy all of them. Every crew starts the same way. Not with a crime, with a friendship. Cor van Hout, nickname Flip, short for Flipper. He earned it as a kid, obsessed with pinball machines. By 26, the pinball is behind him. Now it's horses and real estate. He gambles on races, flips properties across Amsterdam. Every deal a little bigger than the last. Every deal not quite big enough. Cor is the one who gave the speech. He's the one who always has the plan. Every group of friends has a core, the one who makes impossible things sound reasonable, the one whose confidence fills a room so completely that doubt can't find a seat. His right hand, Willem Hollader, nickname The Nose. Why? No one seems to know. He's 25, muscular, loyal. He'd follow Cor into a burning building and argue about who gets to go in first. But here's the detail that changes everything about Willem Hollader. His father worked at the Heineken brewery, worked there for years. Then he was fired, came home, started drinking. The drinking became hitting, and the hitting became the only thing Willem remembered about his childhood. Hold that, we'll come back to it. Franz Meyer, nickname The Professor. He's 30, Cor's oldest friend, the detail man, the one who checks everyone else's work. People said about Franz, nothing gets past him. He's the kind of person who reads a plan and finds the flaw on page 12 that no one else noticed until page 40. Jan Bollard, nickname The Cat. He's the oldest, 31. He tilts his head when he listens, like a cat tracking a sound. Bollard runs a wood manufacturing company. He's good with tools, good with his hands, good at building things. His warehouse will become very important soon. And finally, Martin Urkamps, nickname Breaks. He's the youngest, Cor's half-brother. What Urkamps lacks in sophistication, he makes up for in raw skill. He can steal any car on any street. He taught himself to hack traffic light control boxes, could turn red lights to flashing orange with a few wires. People called him the most clueless of the group. Remember that. It'll matter when the sentences come down. 5 men, 5 nicknames, 1 speech that drew a line between their old lives and everything that followed. Now, who do you kidnap? Cor names targets. The royal family? Sacred, untouchable. The CEO of DAF Trucks? Cor wasn't stupid. You don't kidnap the head of a Dutch car company and expect the entire country to stay neutral. Albert Heijn, the grocery chain CEO, rejected. Because, and this is a direct quote, negotiating with a supermarket just had weird vibes. The room laughs. And then Cor says the name. Freddy Heineken. Chairman of Heineken International, one of the richest men in Europe. His beer sells in 170 countries. His face is on magazine covers. His money is older than most governments. The laughter stops. And for Willem Hollader, the man sitting at Cor's right hand, this name isn't abstract. It's not a business calculation. It's the name on the building where his father worked, the company that fired him, the reason the drinking started, the reason the hitting started. Cor chose the target for the money. Willem said yes for something else entirely. 2 years. That's how long they spend building this. Not weeks, not months. 2 full years of planning, testing, and discarding anything that isn't perfect. These 5 men, who multiple sources call low-level criminals and amateurs, construct one of the most elaborate kidnapping operations in European history from scratch. Start with the cells. Built inside Bollard's warehouse, the cat does most of the construction himself. Here's what goes into those walls. 2 steel-reinforced concrete slabs, B3 concrete blocks, 10 kilograms each. Behind that, a secondary wooden wall. Then a 60-centimeter air gap, packed with sawdust. Then more insulation. If you screamed inside those cells, the sound wouldn't reach the hallway. But Core doesn't trust concrete alone. Inside each cell, a tape deck, playing the same album, on an endless loop. Not for the prisoner's comfort, to mask any sound from outside that might tell the hostages where they are. Imagine hearing the same 12 songs for 3 weeks straight. Now imagine that was the point. A chemical toilet sits in the corner, without chemicals. Safety precaution. You don't give a hostage access to anything that could be weaponized, even cleaning fluid. Now, the deception. Core plans for the investigation, not just the crime. At the abduction site, the gang will deliberately leave behind a duffel bag stuffed with Uzis and a pair of smashed glasses. A car will be staged near the Belgian border. Every piece of planted evidence points the same direction. German gang, professional, international. The message to police is simple. Don't look in Amsterdam. Look everywhere else. They develop code names. Heineken is Eagle. His driver is Hare. Later, mid-negotiation, Core will change them. Eagle becomes Owl. Hare becomes Mouse. Not because the old names were compromised, because he wants the police to know something. I can change the rules whenever I want, and you can't stop me. Holidaire has his own assignment. He positions himself near an actual army base, wearing a full military uniform. If a helicopter flies overhead, he looks like a soldier. If a farmer drives past, he looks like a soldier. The uniform is camouflage for the camouflage. But the ransom is where the planning becomes something else entirely. 35 million guilders is not an abstraction. It's a physical object. It has mass. It takes up space. You have to carry it. So they build wooden blocks, cut to the exact dimensions of bundled cash, load them into standard issue mail bags, lift them, carry them, over and over until the math is certain. Their calculation? 1 full mailbag equals 100 kilograms. Equal to, and this is how they describe it, the weight of a limp adult male. The ransom collection itself goes through 3 complete redesigns before they settle on the final version. Franz Meyer proposes a boat and rope system. Rejected. Someone suggests vacuum tubes. Rejected. A houseboat drop. Rejected. Each plan killed because it isn't flawless enough. What survives? A 1,000-kilometer scavenger hunt. Phone booth to phone booth, across the entire Netherlands, in a single night. And hidden under their disguises, silver racing bikes and cycling outfits. The getaway after the getaway. 100,000 guilders in preparation costs. 2 years of work. 5 men who thought about everything. Everything except the person standing next to them. The afternoon of November 9th, 1983, Freddy Heineken has lunch with local law enforcement. They eat, they talk, he drives home. Hours later, he'll be chained to a wall. Evening, Amsterdam. Heineken's driver, Ab Doderer, parks the armored Cadillac, but tonight he parks further away than usual. Why? No record explains it. No one ever asked. Or if they did, no one answered. It doesn't matter. The team is already in position. Heineken exits the building. The men move. Heineken struggles. Hard. He drops to the ground. He screams for his driver. Doderer hears him, runs toward the sound. A 4th man intercepts him before he can reach Heineken. A taxi driver witnesses the grab. Holiday walks toward him, weapon in hand. The driver backs off. But that taxi driver doesn't leave. He follows the kidnap van, reports it. By the time police respond, the gang has already switched vehicles inside a bike tunnel. The trail is cold in minutes. And then, coincidence. 15 police officers are conducting routine traffic stops at the most critical intersection of the escape route. Routine, random, completely unrelated. Camps, who was assigned to manage that intersection, is sent home. His piece of the operation, gone. He doesn't know it yet, but this will save him 4 years of his life. The van carries 2 men with motorcycle helmets on their heads, visors taped over. Total darkness. Heineken and Dodderer can't see the road, the streetlights, or each other. Bullard drives. And here is where the obsession reveals itself in a single detail. He uses the handbrake instead of the brake pedal. Not once, every single time he needs to slow down. Because the brake pedal activates the brake lights. The handbrake doesn't. These men thought about the light a brake pedal produces. Nothing was unconsidered. The van reaches the warehouse. The helmets come off, the chains go on, and the heist movie energy dies. Cotton pajamas, a bare mattress, a chain to the wall. The tape deck starts, the same album, again, and again, and again. It won't stop for 21 days. Heineken is 60 years old. He's one of the wealthiest men on the continent. He has an armored car, a security team, and a corporation spanning 170 countries. None of that matters now. What matters is bread. 4 slices in the morning, a hot meal at night. That's the rhythm. And every night, every single night, Heineken takes 1 slice and sets it aside. He doesn't eat it. He saves it. His words? You're never sure that there will be bread the next morning. A billionaire rationing bread because 5 friends decided to solve their problems permanently. He communicates with his captors through notes, pages torn from books. He tidies his cell every morning, makes his bed as far as the chain permits. He later described it this way: trying to establish a rhythm gives you something to do. 3 weeks pass like this. The negotiation grinds forward. The ransom demand goes out. 35 million guilders. Heineken's watch is sent with it. Proof of life. Dodderer's voice is recorded reading the kidnapper's demands. The recording is played at random phone booths across the Netherlands. A voice that's not his own, speaking words that aren't his, from a cell he can't leave. And then the police make a decision. They deliberately skip the first ransom drop. They don't show up. They're buying time. They're gambling with 2 lives. The kidnappers respond. They claim they damaged a hostage's finger. A bluff? A threat carried out? The police don't know. They'll never be certain. The code names change. Eagle becomes owl. Hare becomes mouse. Cor Van Hout sending a message across the negotiation table. I can rewrite the rules whenever I choose. The second ransom attempt proceeds. The scavenger hunt begins. 1,000 kilometers. Phone booth to phone booth. The money moves. 35 million guilders changes hands. And then, the captors scatter. The plan dictates that Bullard and Camps will release the hostages once everyone else is safe. Van Hout and Holiday disappear with their shares. Meyer takes his cut. The racing bikes come out. The cycling outfits go on. Silver bikes in the dark. 5 men vanishing into the Netherlands with a fortune split between them. It worked. Every bolt, every backup plan, every code name, every taped over helmet and handbrake stop and wooden block the weight of a limp adult male. 2 years of preparation, 1 night of execution, and they won. For a window, hours, maybe days, every promise Cor Van Hout made on New Year's Eve 1981 is true. 5 men, 5 shares of 35 million guilders. Their problems are solved. The plan worked permanently. They didn't know it yet, but someone had already written the letter. If you're watching this far into a story about 5 friends who pulled off the impossible, you're the kind of viewer who pays attention to details. Do me a favor, hit subscribe. It takes 1 second, and it means this channel can keep telling stories like this one. November 16th, 1983, 1 week into the kidnapping. Heineken and Doderer are still in the cells. The chains are still on. The tape deck is still playing. The negotiation is still running. An anonymous letter arrives at the police. It names 3 of the 5 kidnappers. It's cataloged as item 547. The police publicly claim for years that they found the hostages through a lucky lead. They lie. They have names. Before the ransom is even paid, before Cor Van Hout changes the code names, before the scavenger hunt, before the silver bikes. Someone in their circle writes a letter and ends it all while the operation is still running. Who? Never traced. Never revealed. Not in any public record. Someone who knows Cor Van Hout, Willem Hollader, and at least one other man well enough to name them. Someone who makes a decision while 5 friends are counting the hours until 35 million guilders to burn it all down. The win was supervised. The police watched the ransom drop, knowing exactly who they were looking for. Every mile of that 1,000-kilometer scavenger hunt was a leash the 5 men couldn't see. And now, the tip tells police where to look. Undercover officers stake out the area around the warehouse. And then, someone orders 2 meals from a Chinese restaurant and carries them inside. 2 meals, 2 hostages. A Chinese takeaway. That's how a 2-year plan unravels. Not a forensic breakthrough, not a dramatic chase. Takeaway food. The dominoes fall fast. Bullard and Urkamps are first, intercepted on their way to release Heineken and Doderer. The 2 men who stayed behind to do the decent thing, free the hostages, are the first ones caught. Police find them with their cash splits still on them. Meyer turns himself in, December 28th. He tells the police he burned 3 million guilders in a manic frenzy. But Van Hout says Meyer had been holding 6 million. Where's the other 3? The professor, the detail man. Nothing gets past him. And half his money is unaccounted for. The friendship is already corroding. The accusations are already starting. The trust that held 5 men together for 2 years cracks open over missing guilders. Van Hout and Hollader flee to Paris together. The mastermind and his right hand. The man who gave the speech and the man who stood beside him when he gave it. The 2 smartest men in the operation. They're caught on February 29th, 1984. How? Phone calls. They couldn't stop calling their loved ones. The man who calculated the weight of cash in wooden blocks. Who planted false evidence across 3 countries. Who changed code names to assert psychological dominance over the police. Who thought about the light that a brake pedal produces. Undone because he missed his family and picked up a phone. Police enter the warehouse. Heineken and Doderer, still alive. 21 days in concrete cells. Chain marks on their wrists. Heineken's words, "I could have hugged the rescue team." The man who saved 1 slice of bread every night was free. The 5 men who freed themselves from poverty with 35 million guilders were not. Prison isn't the punishment. Prison is the intermission. What comes after prison? That's where the controlling question lives. The sentences come down in 1984. Bullard, 12 years. Urkamps, 8. He was sent home the night of the kidnapping, remember? Limited involvement. The judge sees it, the sentence reflects it. The most clueless member of the group gets the lightest consequence, if you can call 8 years of your life light. Van Hout and Hollader don't accept their fate quietly. They fight extradition. They bounce from Guadeloupe to St. Barthélemy, to St. Martin, to Île Tintamarre. 2 years of island hopping across the Caribbean. Two men trying to outrun a verdict written in an anonymous letter they'll never read. They're finally returned to the Netherlands on October 31st, 1986. More prison. And then there's Meyer, the professor. He's placed in the Peter Bond Center, a psychiatric evaluation facility. Observation, assessment, the kind of place that's supposed to hold you while experts decide what's wrong with you. He escapes. Meyer flees to Paraguay, starts a new family, opens a restaurant, learns the language, builds a life under a different name. The man Core called his oldest friend, nothing gets past him, spends the next decade proving it. He disappears so completely that it takes a crime journalist to find him. 1995. Peter R. de Vries tracks Meyer down. The professor has been running for over 10 years. Extradited in 2002, finally released in 2005. 22 years. That's how long the plan that was supposed to solve all of his problems permanently actually lasted for Franz Meyer. 22 years of running, hiding, checking over his shoulder every time he served a meal in his own restaurant. After prison, something strange happens to Willem Holleder. Holland falls in love with him. He appears on talk shows. He charms audiences. He leans into the mythology. The press gives him a new nickname, the Cuddly Criminal. The public sees a rogue, a character, an Amsterdam folk hero who pulled off something audacious and paid his debt. What the public doesn't see is what's building underneath. Holleder doesn't leave crime behind. He accelerates into it. Organized crime, real power, real connections, real debts. The kidnapping didn't make him cautious. It made him hungry. The boy whose father was fired from the Heineken brewery and came home swinging, that boy is now the most dangerous man in Amsterdam. And the smile on the talk show is the same smile he wore when he walked toward a taxi driver with a weapon. Multiple homicides will eventually be linked to his name. But that's later. Right now, in the late 90s, Willem Holleder is charming and free and building something no one can see yet. And Cor van Hout? After prison, Cor tries to build a life, but the kidnapping follows him. In the underworld, a man who once held 35 million guilders is never anonymous again. You carry a number like that, and people remember. People calculate. People decide you owe them something, or you have something, or you are something worth taking. There are two attempts on Cor van Hout's life. He survives both. He knows what's coming, he just doesn't know from where. Every single one of the 5 men from that New Year's Eve room is worse off than before the speech. Urkamps served 8 years and disappeared into obscurity. Bollard served 12. Meyer ran for 2 decades. Holleder became a monster, and Van Hout became a target. 5 friends, 1 plan, 1 promise, and the money solved nothing. It accelerated everything. January 24th, 2003. Amstelveen, the Netherlands. Cor van Hout, the man who gave the speech, who designed the plan, who calculated the weight of 35 million guilders in wooden blocks, who changed the code names, who outsmarted the police and was betrayed before the ransom was even paid, steps outside. He's 46 years old. He survived 2 attempts on his life. He won't survive the 3rd. Cor van Hout is fatally struck down outside his home. His funeral, a white hearse pulled by 8 Frisian horses, 15 white limousines, a procession through the streets of Amsterdam, a mafia funeral for a man who 22 years earlier stood in a room with 4 friends and promised he'd fix everything. Same man, same grandeur, but the promise is in the coffin. The investigation into his death takes years. Suspects, dead ends, the underworld stays quiet. The kind of quiet that means everyone knows and no one will say. January 2019, a conviction. The man found guilty of ordering the killing of Cor van Hout, Willem Holiday, the Nose, the cuddly criminal, the man whose father was fired from the Heineken brewery, the man who stood at Cor's right hand on New Year's Eve 1981, his best friend. The plan didn't attract enemies. It turned the person closest to him into one. 5 friends bet everything on one night. They won. They took 35 million guilders from one of the richest men in Europe, and the victory ate them alive, one by one, year by year, until the man who dreamed it up was ended by the man he dreamed it up with. Cor van Hout's words, New Year's Eve, 1981. Listen to them one more time, but listen differently now. I would rather die, a shot at all or nothing to hatch a plan that will solve all of our problems in one go, permanently, and I mean permanently. He got what he asked for. If this story stayed with you, if you're sitting with the weight of that word permanently, then you understand why this channel exists. Subscribe, because the next story is already written, and it's waiting for you.